Welcome to the Workamper Show, brought to you by Workamper.com. This podcast helps you discover how to finance your RV travel dreams. Each one of our episodes will introduce you to people who are already living the RV lifestyle or to work camping opportunities all around the U.S. You'll also learn how to hit the road the right way and make the most of every opportunity. Now let's turn over today's show to your host, Greg Gerber.
Today I'm speaking with a wine expert from Nova Scotia who has some great insight on places to visit and how wine can make your journey even more enjoyable. Today's episode is brought to you by the featured employers at Workamper.com. These Workamper employers have taken the extra step to share some photos and detailed information about their Workamper programs with you, so be sure to check them out today. Opportunities exist for solos, couples, and families, whether they are full-time, part-time, seasonal, or even long-term jobs. Some are income opportunities and others involve volunteering at locations throughout the United States. Go to www.workamper.com/FE to meet the featured employers today. If you are an employer seeking to hire Workampers, then you can learn how to benefit from year-round recruiting by becoming a featured employer. Visit www.workamper.com/FE details. Amy Savoury is a certified sommelier from Nova Scotia who shares how this coastal Canadian province has quietly become one of the most unique wine regions in all of North America. She explains the fascinating history of wine in Nova Scotia dating back to the early 1600s and how today's growers have adapted to a cool climate to produce wines you won't find anywhere else. She also talks about what makes this region so appealing for Workampers and RVers, from its easy-to-navigate layout to the opportunity to visit multiple small family-owned wineries in a single day. If you are a wine aficionado and have ever wondered how geography, climate, and even ocean tides can influence what ends up in your glass, you will enjoy this conversation. And if you're visiting or work camping in New England, this episode will entice you to travel north to Nova Scotia for an incredible experience. To tell us more, please welcome Amy Savoury to the show. Thanks for joining me today, Amy. I appreciate that. How did Nova Scotia become Canada's first wine region?
It's a story that dates back to the 1600s, actually, in a small town here in Nova Scotia, Annapolis Royal, there was a habitation, and the apothecary gentleman at that habitation decided to take his canoe, load it up with some French vines, and plant a vineyard probably about 30 kilometers away. And so that was back in 1611. He planted the first vineyard. Yeah, so we go down in history here in our small little province of Nova Scotia as being the original wine region in Canada.
That's neat, because we have a similar story from my home state of Wisconsin, where they planted the first winery there. And they found out that the grapes don't really like cold weather, and it gets you real negative numbers. So they uprooted them and moved them to California and established the wine industry there. That's really cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. And you're absolutely right. We are definitely a cool climate region here in Nova Scotia. And the commercial winery really didn't start until the 70s. And there was a lot, of course, experimentation as to what kind of vines could survive our winters and still produce wine. So although we had that original planting, it required a lot of experimenting with different grape varieties and hybrids to find out what would thrive in our unique environment.
I can imagine. So what will thrive in the environment?
Yeah. So we, of course, with climate change over the years, our environment certainly is changing. But when we first began the journey really into the commercial wine industry here, let's date that at 1980 is when a lot of movement first started happening in experimentation. And we were really testing kind of French-American hybrid grapes. A lot that were produced in northern France and Germany, and even to this date, we have some grapes from your country as well that we grow here as well. So a lot of French-American hybrids seem to thrive, but nowadays with climate change and the change, we're even starting to grow more classic kind of French grapes called Vitis vinifera, and so those are grapes that you'd probably recognize as Chardonnay and Riesling. So we are starting to grow more of those traditional grapes. Pinot Noir and Pinot Meunier goes into our sparkling wine program here. But a lot of the bulk of our industry is still, the foundation is still really settled on these French-American hybrid grapes. And so we have a really unique grape to Nova Scotia, which was named here in our province, which pays homage to the Acadian culture, called L'Acadie Blanc. And that grape is a kind of a bedrock of our wine industry. And you can see it throughout many styles of wine here in Nova Scotia. So it's really neat to have a grape that we can really truly call our own in our small little province, our small little wine industry, that visitors can come and really taste something completely unique and Nova Scotian.
That is really interesting. How long have you been interested in wine?
Oh, long time. Some folks would call me old. I became fascinated with wine back in 1992 when I first moved here to Nova Scotia. And then I went on to study wine after my university degree and became a certified sommelier in 2002. And so I've been passionate and embedded in our Nova Scotia wine industry since then. And so it's really been amazing to see it grow and flourish over the years. When I first dove into Nova Scotia wine, we had 4 small little wineries here in Nova Scotia. And now we've grown to nearly 20 and are getting recognized around the world for the style of wine that our climate can create. So it's amazing to see it start at very humble beginnings and then develop into this wine region that global writers writing about and visitors coming specifically to explore our wine region, which is amazing.
That's really interesting as well. What does the certification do for you, or what's involved in getting that kind of accolade?
Yeah, it takes a lot of studying in terms of region around the world. So you get to know and explore all of the different wine regions around the world and what grapes they grow and what styles of wine they make. And then another facet of a sommelier certification is the tasting component, understanding how those regions around the world and those grapes around the world come together in the glass. And so a big portion of it is you have to train your senses to recognize those smells and those kind of nuances to be able to say, this is a Chardonnay from France compared to this is a Chardonnay from Nova Scotia. And so tasting is a huge component. And then the thing that I think I enjoy most about the certification, like the trade of being a sommelier, is working in a restaurant and chatting with guests about the wine styles, and then of course how to pair it with food. So how can we make the culinary experience even greater by ensuring what's in the glass completely accentuates what's on the plate?
That was going to be one of my questions, is how can RVers who travel around the country and stop at wineries wherever they travel, how can they really get the most out of their wine tasting experience?
Oh, that's a great question. I think one of the best ways to get to know the place that you're visiting, for me, is through kind of the wine and food, right? It's the culture, it's the pulse of the place. Here in Nova Scotia, we have an amazing food culture, right? We're surrounded a peninsula out in the ocean. So we're surrounded by nearly 13,000 kilometers of coastline. And so seafood is what we're known for here. And you can really experience the culture, the fishery industry, right? It's evident in every restaurant that you go to. And because of our proximity to the ocean, and our wine industry is never more than 20 kilometers from the ocean. So you really get that coastal impact. And so it fulfills the philosophy of what goes together, grows together. So we're reaping all of our food from the oceans, and then our vines are planted in this coastal influence. So the wines are bright and crisp, and they've got this amazing acidity, which is what you want to accentuate seafood and the delicate flavors of seafood. And so really for RVers, it's really quite simple. With such a small province, we're so easy to navigate and get around to the various regions. And the heart of our wine region here is located in an area we call lovingly the Annapolis Valley. And it's the breadbasket breadbasket of our province. And that's where the bulk of the wineries are. And so for an RVer, you could pretty much camp at a small town called Grand Pré or Wolfville. And within 5 kilometers, you can visit 7 different wineries, 8 different wineries. And so you can really make a nice day of it. All of the wineries are small and family owned, so you'll be able to get up close and personal with the people that are making the wine and that are growing the vines. And if there's something unique about Nova Scotians, it's the people, and they want to engage authentically with visitors. And you'll have an amazing time just chatting with the people who have the boots on the ground to tell you about the wine. All the wineries have beautiful tasting bars. Many of them have amazing restaurants, which naturally bring that food and wine together. And then, of course, they all have opportunities to walk right out in the vineyard and really experience our climate and our place. So yeah, it's really, I think the key is it's just so easy to get around. And you can really make a day of it, just winding your way through country roads, stopping at vineyards, sipping beautiful Nova Scotia wine.
That sounds like a fun afternoon to be able to go out and do that, and evening, because you're going to stop at a restaurant and enjoy some delicious seafood and pair it with a great wine.
Yeah, exactly. One of the really unique things about our Nova Scotia wine industry is realizing that we have such a food culture with our seafood, and understanding the type and styles of wine that we can create really well, which are really clean, crisp white wines and beautiful traditional method sparklings. The wine industry, because we're small, got together and created an appellation wine. So a specific wine for Nova Scotia, which is North American's first, that we follow these intense rules that all of the wineries agree to follow. And they make this style of wine, and we call it Tidal Bay is the name of the wine. So it celebrates our place. And every winery that you'll visit, they create their own rendition of this Tidal Bay. And it's the perfect wine to go with our seafoods. And so another great thing is visitors can go around and taste each winery's Tidal Bay and really get an understanding of the sense of place. And that's something you really can't do at any wine region in North America, which is pretty amazing, and it definitely has become our calling card here in Nova Scotia.
It is remarkable that wineries can be so different when they're so close to each other. Just a couple of miles or even 100 miles can influence the taste that much?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We have our province is fairly small. And within our province, we have kind of 7 distinct wine regions. But each one of those wine regions is influenced by a different factor, a different climatic factor. And although water is the role in all 7 regions, there's different bodies of water that are influencing each region. So in the Annapolis Valley, which I spoke about earlier, that region is influenced by the highest tides in the world here in Nova Scotia, which is in the body of water, the Bay of Fundy. And that tidal changes that growing season, and it impacts the style of wine that we make in that region. And then if you travel down the road in your RV and you head on up to Cape Breton, which is a little island attached by a causeway, it's a little bit cooler up in Cape Breton, but there's a beautiful lake there that influences the wine region there. And so wines from Cape Breton will taste completely different than wines from our Annapolis Valley. And then we can continue to travel like to the south shore of Nova Scotia, which is influenced by the Atlantic Ocean, which is even more cool and crisp breezes. And that Atlantic influence changes the style of wine in our south shore. So it's pretty amazing. We also have a body of water which divides Nova Scotia from Prince Edward Island, our smallest province here in Canada. And that body of water is actually the warmest waters north of the Carolinas in your country. And those warm waters, it's the way that the ocean currents go, it completely creates a unique wine region in that area, which we call the Malagash Peninsula. And yeah, it's fascinating. For one small province, we have so many different little microclimates. And for an RVer, you could really get from one side of our province, from the Annapolis Valley side to the South Shore in 1 hour drive. And you are in a completely different microclimate, which is very cool for travelers.
For people who are not familiar with wine, such as myself, what would we have to be mindful of when selecting a wine? If we wanted to go out and do that and just getting started, what are some tips for people to pick the right wines? Or does it require just a lot of tasting to find the one that you really like?
Yeah, you know what? I think it absolutely is. With wine, like anything, there is a wine out there for everyone to enjoy. And I think if I can give any advice is for people to keep trying and stay curious. And also, I think it's important to not only pick the wine, but learn a little bit about the grape that is in that wine, or do some research about the wine region itself and what influences it. Because I do think that wine is definitely a journey of learning. And I really think you can connect authentically with a place through a glass of wine, because it's telling a story, not only, of the climate that wine was made in, but it's telling you a story about the soil of that place. And it's telling you a story about the culture of that place, and the geography and the geology and the history of the place is all intertwined in making a wine, which is cool for not only select that wine, but take a minute and read that back label and understand a little bit more about it, about how it was made and what grapes it's made from. And I think, if anything, keep trying new wines. I think too many people get stuck. They find that wine that they enjoy, and they always go back to selecting and drinking that wine. And so I think what my best advice is, stay curious, keep drinking new wines.
It sounds like it'd be a really good idea to visit the wineries themselves to get that kind of information, rather than go to your local liquor store and start reading bottle labels and trying to select one. Is that right thinking?
Absolutely. Anytime that you can connect with the people that are making the wine or growing the grapes that are going into that wine, you're going to get that real authentic experience and understanding of the place, which is great.
Is there a difference between the smaller independent wineries and the bigger ones that are managed by corporations?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think if I think about Nova Scotia and our wine region here, we're all kind of small independent operators. And that plays a role in allowing them to really be innovative in their wines and really truly let the wines represent the place. So instead of making a bottle of wine in mass quantities to appeal to certain taste profiles, they're able to be really respectful of what the climate is going to give them in that vintage year, and really represent the best of that vintage in the glass, and become a little bit more innovative and risk-taking. And I think you can certainly taste that, right? When you taste a good wine, you can feel there's an old analogy that says the best wines are wines that have like tension of place and can tell the story. And I think you can truly experience that when you taste a wine.
And how do they do that? Is it by blending different flavors together? Is that how they're coming up with this uniqueness for each different kind of brand or bottle?
Yeah, sometimes the grape and the blend plays the role. Like, of course, I often use the thought that the grape is almost like the DNA of the wine. Like, the personality of the wine is going to come from that grape. But you can take one grape and grow it in a different region, and it will get a different personality of that region. The structure of the wine, or the notes of the wine, may be the same for one grape grown in one region compared to another. But when you grow it in a specific environment, it gets a different personality, right? It takes on different characteristics of the place. And so that's a really fun way to explore different grapes. And even through blending, they can take different kind of personalities and bring them together in the glass.
Sounds like raising children. A child grown in the country is much different than one growing up in the city.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. And Greg, I often when I teach wine, I'll often say I have two sisters and we have the same DNA, but we have completely different personalities because of how we were brought up. And I often think about wine like people, right? You get your personality from what has influenced you over your lifetime. And every vine, depending on what soil it's going to be planted in and what climate, it's going to adapt and develop a different personality.
That's why twins fascinate me, because they grow up in the same home, same environment, same experiences, but they are uniquely different in their personalities. Just part of their DNA in some regards. So that's really interesting. Is there an ideal age for wine that it should be sitting before it's consumed?
Yeah, no, that's a really tough one. It really depends on the style of wine. Here in Nova Scotia, we make these beautiful, bright, crisp, light whites that are really meant to be they're meant to be consumed young and early, right? And if you open up that bottle, you want to get it, you want to enjoy it right away. Where we have other styles of wine in Nova Scotia, particularly our traditional method sparkling wines, which can age for many years before you drink them. So it's really understanding what kind of grape and what kind of style of wine you have. Some wines are meant to age and others are meant to consume young. Yeah. And our Tidal Bay here in Nova Scotia is a perfect example. That's a wine that's meant to be consumed within the year that it gets bottled. It's bright, it's fresh, it's delicious, and you want to consume it right within that first year, second year.
Is there a delay in opening the bottle before you start consuming it? I've heard that wines really need to breathe in order to bring out the flavor. Is that correct?
Some wines, particularly mainly for reds and some more delicate wines. But no, you pop that here in Nova Scotia. We pop the cork, we get the lobster, and we grab a glass of Tidal Bay, and off we go.
Super. RVers love to visit wineries, like I said before, and many times they do. They'll pick up some bottles. Is there an ideal way to store them? Should they be stored indoors in a darker place, or can they be thrown into the compartment of an RV?
Yeah, I'm not. You definitely, especially when it's warm and in the summer, you don't really want to leave them where wine could get very hot. So yeah, definitely a cool spot indoors would be best. And if you can store the wine on its side, that's helpful as well. But it really depends. If you were RVing around Nova Scotia, I would probably keep it maybe inside your RV so it just didn't get too hot from the sun.
Good idea. What are curious travelers rediscovering in Nova Scotia right now?
Oh, that's a great question. I love our province. It's absolutely amazing. And I think the scenic beauty alone, the natural assets and the coastlines, as I mentioned, 1,300 kilometers of coastline. We have over 6,000 different lakes that you can explore. But for me, the thing I think why people are coming to Nova Scotia and returning to Nova Scotia is for the people. They're really, truly our deepest assets. The people of Nova Scotia are friendly. They're always up for a conversation. They're helpful. They're just authentic as one can be. And I think travelers nowadays, when you want to invest, you've invested a lot of time, you've invested a lot of money, and what you really want to take away is really a truly authentic experience. You want to feel like you really understand the place when you leave. And here in Nova Scotia, it's the people that you're going to connect with, and it's the authentic memories that you're going to make, and those real natural conversations that are going to happen, which is really special. I think as well, is particularly probably for RVers, because it's just, with such a small province, it's so easy to get around. And we have so many, both public and private campsites. We're definitely campers here in Nova Scotia. We like being outdoors and we like to engage with our natural beauty. And we have a tremendous amount of both public and private campgrounds. And so every region that you could go to, you could really enjoy our natural scenery and our ocean views or our lake views or just our beautiful forests in the province. And so I think it boils down to rediscovering just a real authentic place where you can make memories and really engage deeply with not only the people, but the natural assets of that place as well.
And I really think that visiting wineries is a great event to do because, like I said, I'm not very experienced in selecting wines and things like that, but I was touring in the California wine country many years ago, and we stopped at a winery and talked to a professional sommelier who had us tasting different foods with different types of wines. And it was amazing how the food changed in flavor and the experience of eating it based on the wine. So you'd have the same food with 3 different types of wine, and it just tasted so good with one particular one versus the other. So I think that people need to stop in at these wineries and talk to people like you to get those tips and get those suggestions to enhance their wine experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. I often reference like that wine and food experience, like a really great conversation where one will talk and the other will listen. And that's what's happening between what's on the plate and the glass. Like they truly connect. And then when you have a really great conversation, each makes the other better. And it becomes this kind of little dance.
So how can people connect with you if they'd like to learn more about wine or to just get your advice?
Yeah, I think the best place for listeners to get information is at novascotia.com. And that has tons of information. It's got built-in itineraries that your travelers could already take. So there's like a built-in place where they can learn about different itineraries lasting different days. There's amazing information in there about our wine region, and it talks all about where you can visit, how many wineries you can visit. It also talks, we have some amazing winery stays where you can actually stay right at the vineyard and enjoy an experience right at the winery. It also, novascotia.com has tons of tour providers. So perhaps maybe mindful of driving, perhaps your RVers want to keep your RV at the campground for the day. And we have tons of different wine tour providers. There's a great little one in the valley called the Vintage Vino, and he has old vintage cars that he picks you up in and drives you around the country roads in these beautiful old cars. Lots of opportunities to join up on tours, and everything, all information, all the essentials can be found at novascotia.com.
That's great. I think people need to visit. And you have to be intentional about visiting because it's not like you're driving through Nova Scotia to get anywhere else. But it's like if they take the time to go up there, they're going to have an amazing experience. So thank you for sharing your information with me today. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. And just as a note, if your RVers are coming up from the US, we also have a ferry that connects that your RVers can get on in Bar Harbor, Maine, and travel over to Nova Scotia. You'd land in Yarmouth. So a little bit of an easy way to connect.
That's right. So they don't have to drive up there. Anybody who's RVing in the New England area can get up to Bar Harbor and hop a ferry and go spend a couple of days up in Nova Scotia.
Absolutely. They won't regret it. I'll tell you that.
Thank you again for your time. I appreciate it.
You're welcome so much, Craig. Lovely talking.
Amy Savoury gave us a great look at why Nova Scotia is such a special destination for work campers who enjoy exploring local culture through food and wine. From the influence of coastal climates to the creativity of small independent wineries, it's clear that this is a place where travelers can slow down and truly connect with the land and the people. She also reminded us that wine is a journey, and the best way to learn is to stay curious by trying new types and talking with the people who grow and produce it. For RVers, Nova Scotia offers an easy-to-explore region with plenty of campgrounds, scenic drives, and opportunities to visit multiple wineries without traveling far. If you'd like to learn more, plan a trip, or explore winery tours and discover fun itineraries, you can find everything you need at novascotia.com. Today's episode was sponsored by Workamper News, much more than just a job listing website. When you put the tools of this professional service into action, you'll find out just how easy it can be to turn your work camping dreams into reality. A Workamper membership opens the door to a one-stop shop for all things work camping. Being the original resource for work camping, you'll find the largest number of job listings, be able to connect with a community of work campers, and view resources compiled by experts who've been enjoying the RV lifestyle for many years. If you're serious about leading a successful and enjoyable work camping lifestyle, then membership is for you. So join today at www.workamper.com. Embark on new adventures today with the support of Workamper News behind you. That's all for this week's show. Next time I'll be speaking with a work camping couple who has been RVing for several years. They have great stories to share, and I'll have that interview on the next episode of The Workamper Show. Thank you for listening.